My name is Don Diamond. I am a professor in the Department of Hematology at the City of Hope. And I was the former chairman of the Department of Experimental Therapeutics. My specialty has been development of vaccines. I've done a considerable amount of work in the hematologic malignancy field, uh, conducting numerous clinical trials. In fact, I have uh, one proposal in front of NIH for hematologic malignancies and another 15 center proposal for investigating one of my vaccines for solid organ transplant recipients. But I continued to work in oncology part of my time. We had a real robust effort in pancreatic cancer for about 10 years. And we published some very interesting studies showing how we could completely eradicate real pancreatic, what's called adenocarcinoma. The lab was much more diversified up until this COVID pandemic. And we sort of all rallied around and dropped some things, not completely, but maybe they're a bit more on, in stasis than they should be. So we are very focused on trying to develop a marketable vaccine strategy. We're in the clinic, as I mentioned to Derek, and we're trying to finish up our phase 1 trial. We're a bit behind on the original, but we've transitioned to making a vaccine. You may have heard of the UCLA, the Cedars-Sinai variant, the variant from the UK, the Brazilian variant, and of course the South African variant. And so they have certain things in common, and we're developing a second generation vaccine to address them. But also, we haven't forgotten our cancer patients. So we're hoping to do a follow-up trial by giving our COVID vaccine to our transplant and cancer patients to really give them a strong protection. So we're in the middle of writing up that protocol, and we hope to get started as soon as we post it to the FDA. So the vaccine strategy that we've used sort of universally over the last 20 years, we've conducted some medium-sized trials that we've published in reputable places um, that are called randomized control trials, very similar to the trials that Pfizer and Moderna used for their testing their vaccines. So we tested one of my vaccines in transplant patients at the Dana-Farber, MD Anderson, and City of Hope. It was a 3-institution trial. And what we found is that our vaccine could prevent a particular herpes infection that these individuals were susceptible to. The problem is that they're susceptible to it very early after transplant. So we did a very novel thing. We started vaccinating them on day 28 post-transplant when their immune system was very immature. It's a unique situation in that our bodies are likely already attuned that this infection may come at some times in our life. And so really by day 40 after a transplant, we already see signs that people have responded to our vaccine. And that was part of that paper. that we published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. And what we did is translate that to COVID, but because the virus, it's a respiratory virus that is how you acquire the COVID disease. Uh, our thought is that we'll wait a bit, and especially people who have not acquired the infection, that to protect them, we'll start, maybe at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and see how early our vaccine works. Because unlike some of the others, our vaccine, which we just started getting some data, um, provokes a strong T cell response just 2 weeks after vaccination, which agrees with our prior work that the vaccine actually works quite fast at eliciting T cells. So we're very optimistic that we can, protect these vulnerable cancer patients very early. Uh, but we're going to start at 3 months. Uh, it's possible that it might work earlier. We have different uh, groups to convince. So there are sort of guidelines from various clinical organizations. And so they're recommending no earlier than 3 months. Um, as I said, we gave them their first shot with our prior trial about a month after transplant. And, we have good statistical reasons to know that that vaccine succeeded. So it's very possible that we could dial up earlier, but we will play it safe and and go at 3 months. One thing, I don't want to prolong this, but one thing that what we're finding is that the recommendations by various clinical organizations is to vaccinate cancer patients with the EUA vaccines. The problem is that there's absolutely no data that they will work in those patients. We have data that our vaccine, using a different system, so we're looking at a herpes virus in many situations, it works. So we're just substituting the herpes virus, what we antigen, with the SARS-CoV-2 spike antigen, which is one of the major um, recognition elements. So we're very confident that we're going to get a response from these patients, and there may be no response to the EUA vaccines, especially that they're focused on antibodies, and antibodies, especially for transplant recipients, are very hard to elicit early after transplant, whereas T cells are much easier. So we think we have a benefit for those patients.